Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to PlayLoad. This is all my video game pickups for the month of August 2019. Not super insane as far as quantity of items, but I do have some cool stuff that happened from various things. We also have some mystery packages here that we'll be going into, so yeah, go ahead and take time to talk about them. Now, at the very beginning of the month, this all started with me going down to St. Louis again for the Missouri Game Con. This was the 4th Missouri Game Con. Here's my badge. And I am their only reoccurring guest for all 4 years, which is a nice little, in this case, literal badge of honor. So yeah, that was very cool. But I got some cool stuff there. There was just kind of the stuff they were giving away at the convention. Like, here's a cool poster they did based on the convention with, of course, Breath of the Wild artwork. I also got this t-shirt that I'm currently wearing, which I really like this design, actually. I thought it was kind of genius because they're using the St. Louis arch, but combining it with the Halo font, so it kind of looks like Halo. I thought that was a neat design. Also just got some random stuff, like this YouTube channel called Do You Nerd came over and talked to me for a bit, and they gave me this cool like NES dust cover that they make themselves, which was neat of them to do. I also won an award from Walter Day. I'm sure a lot of you guys know him. He's the guy who's always wearing like a referee jacket in certain movies like King of Kong and Chasing Ghosts. He awarded me, I'll show you the award here. It was very cool, but unfortunately I don't physically have that award at the moment because they needed to get some other people to sign it, to certify it or something like that, and then they're going to ship it to me, and it's proving to be more of a logistical nightmare than I think they anticipated. But what I do have is the cards. Apparently when you win one of these things, you get trading cards like this, which is pretty neat. So I'm going to start bringing these to some conventions until I don't have any more cards, so if anybody wants them, I'm going to be happy to be giving them away. But the next convention I'm going to is AVGC in New Jersey. That one will be slightly different. I've been a guest there for the past few years as well. There's actually, we're on Saturday, it's Saturday, September 7th. We're going to be doing a live panel for the 20th anniversary of the Sega Dreamcast. Only available to people in the room. Meanwhile, splitting duties here, Corey Marshall will be, the voice of Ryo Hazuki from Shenmue, will be doing one at Game Realms in Burbank, California, basically outside of Los Angeles. So you have one right outside of New York and one right outside of Los Angeles that are happening at the exact same time and the exact same day. I was actually, at one point I was going to be going to that, but obviously there was a scheduling conflict there, so we decided to split duties. So because Corey came to AVGC last year as well. So they'll be doing the 20th anniversary there. So if you're in LA or in New York or anywhere around the area, you can come out to a Dreamcast 20th anniversary panel. I can't be sure of what Game Realms is going to do exactly, but in our case, Videogames New York is going to supply various indie Dreamcast games that we're going to be giving away to people who show up to the panel. So if you're at all interested in talking about it or hearing about it, come on out. It'll be me and a few other people that'll all be up there talking. Basically just revisiting the history of it and talking about memories and taking questions and that kind of stuff. It'll be fun. And if you really want one of these, I'll have one there. So that was actually kind of a perfect segue there, because while I was still at Missouri Game Con, the guys who run the convention, a bunch of great guys, they gave me a gift. It was this. It was actually, this is the first time I'm unwrapping it because I wanted to wait until this was actually happening. But it's a white T-shirt from Funkoland from the launch of the Sega Dreamcast, and just says Sega Dreamcast Funkoland Dream Team. So I remember this when they were first releasing it. Like, everybody who worked at Funkoland had a shirt like this. It's an XL, so I can actually fit into it, which is pretty neat. But people, if you don't know what Funkoland is, it was one of many chains that used to exist similar to GameStop but didn't suck. Like Babbage's, Software, etc. Electronics Boutique or EB Games, which still kind of exists in certain countries. But GameStop ultimately was the fusion of all of those things into one entity. But yeah, so Funkoland was one of them. So very cool. So thank you very much to the guys at the Missouri Game Con. Now when it comes to the actual like game pickups that I got at the Missouri Game Con, not a ton of stuff, but I did pick up a nice little stack of OG Xbox as well as one other item. So I'm going to go ahead and show them to you. If you aren't aware, I am still in the pursuit of a complete original Xbox set. It's still a long road ahead, but it's cool to keep kind of chipping away at it. So one thing I got was ESPN Basketball 2K4, although at the time it was just ESPN Basketball. Sega was still making sports games at the time. Funny enough, the football version of this, actually Ryo Hazuki is in it as a cameo. If you can unlock him by doing a certain thing, and then you can play as him, which is weird but cool. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, based on the Tim Burton 2005 remake. It was never a movie that I actually particularly thought was great. I always like the original better, like most people I think do, but I didn't hate the movie like a lot of people do. I've heard this game is actually not altogether awful. It's not great or anything, but it's for what it is, it's not that bad. Arx Fatalis, Enter a World of Darkness Like No Other. I have very vague memories of this. It kind of looks like a Skyrim-esque dungeon crawler type of, like 3D dungeon crawler type of environment, but that's really all I kind of remember about it. And of course, I'm also looking at screenshots that are likely influencing that opinion. Because again, it's been a long time since I think I booted up this game, as I kind of remember playing it a little bit when it first came out. Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup. Man, when at the height of Harry Potter's success, EA was just cranking out games, and everybody's cranking out Harry Potter stuff left and right, and they still are, of course. It's still a huge franchise. But yeah, this was an attempt to just kind of make an extra game without a movie being necessary, based, of course, on the sport they're in. But I don't remember this being anything particularly impressive. And speaking of movies, Pirates of the Caribbean, the Disney movie. This one, I don't remember anything special about it, obviously, other than the fact that it's just some 3D type of platformer. It's got, action-adventure aspects and obviously pirate ship stuff, but beyond that, I don't know how faithful it is to the movie or anything. So, but it was made by Bethesda, which was interesting. So yeah, that was my nice little stack of OG Xbox. Then, I got one PlayStation 2 game. I got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Smash Up. This game was by Ubisoft. This game I ended up getting towards the end of the convention, and there was a couple of tables of just trying to get rid of everything, which partially when I got all this stuff. But this is from that era where PlayStation 2 was still going, original Xbox and GameCube were done, the Wii was in full swing. I think there is actually a Wii version of this game as well. But when it comes to either PlayStation 2 or Wii, I typically would get PS2 stuff just because I can be guaranteed it will use a real controller. It's kind of surprising this wasn't really on anything else, but that was just that era. There was a very strange phase there where there were still games being made for those two platforms. Odd. But yeah, it looks kind of based on the TMNT 2007 animated movie, which I think Ubisoft actually made the official tie-in movie game as well, so that wouldn't really surprise me. But yeah, that game wasn't bad. It was actually like the other one anyway. Was like one of the easiest ways to get 1,000 achievement points on Xbox 360. So I assume this is very similar, but don't know. So that's it from the stuff I got at Missouri Game Con. After that, I went to a few different places. One place I actually went to, which was really cool, although it has really nothing to do with video games, so maybe I'll talk more about it in my podcast specifically, but I just wanted to throw it in here. I actually got the opportunity to go down to Cuba. Which to my fellow Americans I know is a very odd concept, but it's become a lot easier. And I'll talk more about it in my podcast, but yeah, I got to go down to Cuba. No video games to pick up from there, but I'll tell more of that stuff in there. I just wanted you guys to know if you're at all interested in what it's like to go to Cuba, or what that process is. Feel free to listen to the podcast. I'll talk more about it there. But back to the video games. One thing I didn't pick up, but it showed up anyway, there's a great dude out in Sacramento who runs a website called GG Retro Gaming, which I'm going to put a link to in the description. Every once in a while, a package will just show up from him. He just sends me something for free, so thank you again to him for doing that. In this case, I wasn't expecting it, so I just opened it. This is a funny thing to have at this point. It's a PS1 copy of Spyro the Dragon, which somehow I didn't own. I've always liked the PS1, but there's just a ton of its like most well-known games I simply don't have because it's not a system I ever collected a whole lot for. I don't entirely know why. I have a bunch of games for it, but there's just some ones where you're just like, wait, really? How do you not have that? And this was one of them. So it's the greatest hits version, which whatever, I'm fine with. But I remember when this game came out, it was like a huge deal. Like this was one of the things that really made the PlayStation ultimately be the success that it was. I remember having a demo of this game. This demo was blasted everywhere. It was like on the official PlayStation magazine. It was in those Pizza Hut demos, if anybody remembers those. And you could just play a big chunk of the game, and it was like, this game is so much fun. It's so cool. But at that age, it was like, you had to be incredibly particular about what games you were going to pick up for financial reasons. And so I ultimately never got it, and then here we are at the age of 32, and now I finally have it, and ironically paid nothing for it. But still, thank you very much to GG Retro Gaming. If you want to check them out, again, there's a link in the description. Good opportunity to buy some affordable games. But so thank you to them for that. I also, unfortunately, I missed out on Gamescom this year. I was super close to that happening, and then like last minute my plans fell through. The same actually goes for PAX West. I was also supposed to go to that, and last minute my plans fell through. So I ended up being home for a while, which was kind of strange to me. But then I randomly got the opportunity to go to Belgium, to Brussels specifically, and that was cool. And I also had some time off, so what I did while I was there is I found a train you could take to go down to Luxembourg, which is a tiny little country that I'm sure, when I went there, I got the sense that it's not a touristy place. I don't know enough about its history or anything. It kind of feels like a tax dodge, because it feels like most of that country is just, we're an extension of other cultures around us. We've got a lot of German influence, French influence, Belgian influence, etc. And it's not a knock against Luxembourg. I had a perfectly nice time there. Like when I would go anywhere, there was nothing about that culture that said, like, here's all our kitschy touristy stuff or anything like that. In fact, I had to try really hard to find something like that. I ultimately went to, this is going to sound stupid, but I went to a Starbucks. And the reason I did that is because I kind of like to collect those Starbucks mugs from different places. There's not that many Starbucks in Belgium, or sorry, in Luxembourg. But I did find one, and I went inside, and they had a mug, but they had the mug from like 3 sets ago. So like the really old designs. And I was like, okay, it's not exactly what I wanted, but I'll get it because it's whatever. And then when I went to buy it, the guy actually asked, like, wait, what? You actually want this? Like they clearly did not sell many of those things. I don't know. I was only there for a day, but that was kind of my impression. It was just, oh, it's cool, I'm here, and you get some photos and stuff, but very, very pleasant, very nice people, nothing against it. It felt like it didn't have any desire to feel like a touristy place, if that makes any sense. So there you go, but cool nonetheless. Now, anyway, then I went back into Brussels, and while I was in Brussels, I got to go to a video game store that I had wanted to check out the last time I was there. One time I had to change planes there I had a very extended layover. And so it allowed me enough time to go into the city and check it out for a bit. And there was a game store that I wanted to check out. I went to it and it was closed. So this time I had a little more time and I hit that same game store. And I'm going to show you a bunch of footage of it now. It's a cool game store called Old Star Games. And it was like the first game store I had been into in quite some time where I actually thought maybe I can do an entire video about this store. But the problem was that it was always busy. There was always people in there. It was too hard to get a lot of footage. And it's just, it was just one of those situations that didn't quite pan out the ideal way. So my recommendation to you is, if you're ever in Brussels and you're into retro games, which you probably are if you're watching this video, go to Old Star Games. They have a lot of cool stuff. And they had a lot of stuff I've never seen before. A lot of odd European exclusives, but also like oddball clone consoles and just stuff that was unique. So that was definitely cool to check out. But that said, I only picked up a couple of things. The first was a couple of gag PlayStation 2 games. For those who don't know, the PS2 survived in Europe for a really long time. I think it was officially discontinued in 2014, which wasn't that long ago. And the reason for that was I think it was like 2009, there was some sort of lawsuit within Europe that forced Sony to drop certain restrictions on who could make games. So if anybody basically was willing to make a game and pay the publication fee, Sony had to put it on a disc and officially license it, even if the game was complete shit. And as a result, there was a whole lot of shovelware, and just like hilariously bad shovelware, that was thrown onto the PlayStation 2 exclusively in Europe. It's a complete minefield over there. Now, some of them are, they're fun to pick up because they're it's like treasure hunting for garbage. Like, I don't know how else to put it. But it's kind of fun because a lot of them are licensed things or familiar brands, which is how they got you to check them out in the first place. Like a lot of movie games that suddenly had movie games years after the movie came out. For example, Home Alone from 91 has a PS2 game that came out in like 2006. Or something even later than that. And Jumanji had a game, and just so many random movies and IPs. And then there's a lot of weird Disney ripoff, like, you know, movies that are just on a PS2 disc, and it's just strange. So that because of that, there's just a lot of oddball garbage. So those are kind of fun to check out. So I got these. The first one is The Mummy, the animated series, which, first of all, I didn't even know there was a Mummy, the animated series. Like, I had no clue. And so the fact that on top of that also had a game was kind of hilarious to me. I'm sure this game is completely awful. And of course, the outside is in English, but the inside is in French, and I can only read it as an American, so to me it's funny. La Mummy, which I'm sure is not at all how it's actually pronounced, but it just made me laugh. But yeah, there you go. I thought that was neat. And the other one wasn't really based on something like that. It just caught my attention because I looked at the cover and I knew immediately this was a regional exclusive, which was Barbarian's Blade, Khan. Looks like complete crap. It presents itself like some sort of third-person adventure game, but it also has all these angles of the character basically looking at the camera, which implies that they're cutscene footage and not necessarily gameplay footage. So I don't know how bad this game actually is. It's probably completely shit. But these were both super cheap, and they were just kind of hilarious. And I'm sure you're thinking, like, why would you pick up games you know are going to suck? And you have to understand, it's not always about playing those. Although those can be fun, because you never know what kind of maybe video you can make out of it, just showing the world this awful piece of crap game that once existed. But it's also just kind of the fun of finding something like that. That in of itself becomes the game, as long as it's not financially unreasonable to do something like that. But the game I got that I was actually happy to pick up, because it's a console I never get to pick stuff up for, and this would be the ultimate place to do it, was Pack Panic for the Philips CDI. This is the complete edition. I actually know one guy, my buddy Ronald, who actually collects CDI stuff, and even he was like, I've never seen it outside of, usually it's just the jewel case, but this has like the extended manual and the paper outlay. Like, it was in really good shape, and it wasn't particularly expensive. And it's an actual game for the CDI. The Philips CDI infamously didn't have many actual games. It mostly had educational software or movies and stuff like that. So to find an actually playable interactive game for that console is pretty neat. So happy to have that and add it to the collection. But that kind of does it for this stuff. So I just have a couple of random packages here of things that I'm going to show you guys. The first one is from the UK. So let me open it up. This one's kind of neat, and it was kind of in the process for quite some time. So hopefully everything worked out here. Sorry about the jump cut there. That took longer than I thought. So inside, we have some, he just included some extra artwork. This is some artwork of Ryu from Street Fighter. As well as Pure Solar, my precious, one game to rule them all. Some sort of ad for Pure Solar, which was a cool game on the Genesis that came out in 2009. It was a cool RPG, as well as the Dreamcast a few years later. Check it out for sure. I actually did a video on it quite some time ago. Inside, there's a couple of envelopes of random things, and let's make sure that they all are in the right order. Okay, so I know what that is. What's this? This might be something extra. He threw in, oh, it's just some random posters, it looks like. Oh, no. Okay, so I should mention this. These come from a guy named Benjamin Boyd, or Ben Boyd, and he does a lot of fan-made artwork for Sega Saturn games to give you basically long box artwork for games that were only released in one region. This is actually pretty useful for translated games. That, you know, sometimes a game from Japan will be translated into English, and then people want to have it in like a North American set, or if it was a European exclusive and people want a North American set or something like that, or just to update certain artwork. So in his case, he threw this in as a bonus. He made new artwork for Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is a game I actually do own. He makes these really high quality prints. So this is basically a brand new manual for the game, which means it's got a new front artwork and then a new rear artwork. Which is very cool. He just threw this one in. I didn't ask him to do that. So thank you very much for doing that. And he packed some of these nice things. The one I actually was seeking out, and by the way, the artwork on that is incredible. Actually, I want to take a look at the manual here. Oh, the manual's in color too. Wow. That's pretty neat. Wow. Yeah, he does a good job. Now, I actually, like I said, I do own Panzer Dragoon Saga, and just because of the unique nature of that game and how expensive and all that stuff it is, I probably won't put that one in there, but I'll probably find some sort of case or something to put that in, though, all the same. But this one I actually wanted very specifically. If I can, this one's, hopefully I can get this open. All right. This is a unique game in the North American library because It never had a long box release. I think it's the only game then that didn't have a long box release, because even Virtua Fighter Remix did have a long box release, even though the long box is uncommon. It only came out in Canada, oddly enough, but I have that. This one never came out at all, and that's Christmas Nights. So he made a custom... Christmas Nights was a promo that Sega did, which was a full reproduction of the game Nights into Dreams, but Christmas themed. I think it was actually like a free giveaway and a lot of stuff. It was actually sold retail in Japan, but in like a jewel case. The American version of it is not super common. It's not super valuable or anything, but it's not super common. But yeah, he made a full-on, full-size artwork here. So I'm going to have to find a nice Saturn case to actually put this in, which, funny enough, I know that those are being produced again, I think through like limited run games and stuff. So I'm going to have to actually get a set of those so that I'm ready to go. But yeah, man, it's beautiful artwork. So thank you so much for that. And yes, I bought those, but or at least I bought Christmas Nights. So I suggest, I'll put a link in the description, or at least his email, so if you're at all interested, you can check that out if you want to. So thank you, Ben. Next up, we have this package. This is kind of a callback to Missouri Game Con. When I went to the Missouri Game Con, I met up with Gary from Rock Solid Productions. He's another YouTuber, I'm sure a lot of you guys know. He told me in advance to bring something, and he was going to modify it as part of his panel. But unfortunately, the parts didn't arrive in time, so he was unable to do it. So he ended up modifying it and then mailing it to me. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. All right, there we are. Super Famicom Junior. Now, this is my Super Famicom Junior. You guys have seen this before. I included this in a Japanese pickups video quite some time ago. I bought this myself in Japan. I also included it, I had a video just cleaning and restoring it. But the problem with this particular console in general, not like this individual one, but the Super Famicom Junior as a whole, is that it's limited to composite video. Back when Nintendo made them, they did this design, and then they did the same thing for North America as the Super Nintendo Junior, which is really all this is. It's just the Japanese Super Nintendo Junior. But Gary said he could modify it for RGB, which would actually make it a lot more useful. But he also didn't alter the outside of it at all, so it still looks stock. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out, because obviously a composite-only version of this isn't particularly useful, but having it modded for RGB, you're going to get much cleaner, much more beautiful image out of it, which is fantastic. So thank you very much, Gary, for doing that. And again, I'll put a link in the description to his channel as well, and I'm sure, I think he said he was going to show some footage of it or something like that, so odds are there's gameplay footage over there. So thank you very much, Gary. And then the last thing up here is a package from Russia. This is a unique one. This comes from Russia, but that's not how I got it. A buddy of mine named Skill Jim, who's a big Shenmue fan, contacted me about this particular item, and he's like, dude, are you aware of this thing's existence? And I wasn't. And he's like, okay, I'm going to buy this for you and have it sent to you. And I was like, no, you don't have to do that. And he's like, it's too late. It's already done. So he bought me this, which you don't have to do. Nobody has to buy me stuff. Nobody has to send me stuff. Nobody has to mod stuff or any of that kind of thing. But still, thank you. But he did it regardless. So thank you again to Skill Jim. So I've been holding on to this for quite some time, and I'm excited to show you guys. I think this is something only Shenmue fans in general will appreciate, but nevertheless, I wanted to show it because, I had no idea this existed. All right, here it is. It's Shenmue 1 and 2 for PS4. I know, who cares? We've only seen that a million times. This is the Russian version. I had no idea there was a Russian version. Like, it has their rating system. It actually says things in Russian on it. The whole back is in Russian. It's region 5, which, damn. So I don't know how. It probably doesn't vary much. This might be, the gameplay might actually be in Russian. Not dubbed or anything, but at least subtitled. I don't even know if the other versions had Russian subtitles. So the fact that that exists is really quite strange and quite cool. As far as I know, there was no Xbox One version in Russia. It was just this. Which, yeah, that's a really cool oddball collector's variant, because I don't think there were any other Russian versions of Shenmue ever. It's also, I think, the single only game from Russia in my collection, which I might talk a little bit more about on the podcast because of Cuba. Hey, history. But yeah, so thank you very much to Skill Jim for hooking that up. Thank you very much to Gary for this. Thank you everybody at the Missouri Game Con. Thank you to GG Retro Gaming, which again I'll put a link to in the description. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys could please like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff, I always appreciate that. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all later.